Proverbs 21, verse 13. Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered. If there is something that we must accept, is that there is inequality in societies. It doesn't matter which societies. The reason may differ for the inequalities, but in no society everybody is the same, and in no society everybody will be the same. I know there are some societies that try to force people to become the same, but ultimately it doesn't work. One of the reasons of inequality is the Pareto distribution. Some people call it the 80-20 rule, and this is simply to say that approximately 80% of all human 80% of all human output is created by 20% of those people in the group. Let's say, for instance, that we have a group of painters. Then 80% of the paintings will be done by 20% of those painters in the group. Or if we have a group of writers, or if we have a group of people running a community of businesses, or running a school. And I am sure that you have been part of certain groups where this very principle has asked you to say, why aren't more people taking up responsibility? Whatever the reasons, the Pareto distribution is just a description on human behavior and is one of the leading causes of inequality in different groups and in different societies. When we are confronted by inequalities in the economic level and the poor, then there is, of course, a sense of personal responsibility. What is the life that I want to live? There is a responsibility to act upon your own life. There is this responsibility to grow your own value and to make a difference. Yes, we sometimes, people through different circumstances, different life scripts that they create, they tend to make choices that land them in situations where they become poor and they stay poor. That doesn't take away that ultimately every person has got the responsibility for their own lives. You can think on the example of the two brothers. They grew up in the very same house and were very poor. The one became the rich businessman. The other one stayed poor. Once you've asked the rich businessman and asked him and said, listen, why have you become so rich? What is driving you to do more and more business? And he will say, listen, I grew up poor. If you ask the poor brother, what is the reason that he is so poor? He will tell you the same answer. Well, I grew up poor without any opportunities. If you ask the two brothers, what's the difference between them? The different lies in the choices that you make towards your personal responsibility. People not only have a personal responsibility, we also have a social responsibility. In terms of our personal responsibility, it is easy to create distance and say, but your life is your responsibility, I have got nothing to do with it. But that is not the idea that we get from the Bible. That is not the calling to Christians. Christians have a very definite social responsibility. What is the society we want to live in? And then we can see that one of the hallmarks of the Christian society is taking care for one another. And in the New Testament, you get this as an extremely positive aspect of the life of the church, where they ate together, where they said, but we are now living for the kingdom of God. And each one of them sold their property, and they had this sense of communion, where we say everybody is doing what everybody possibly can for the furthering of the kingdom of God and the community of believers. So we most definitely have a societal responsibility. When we look at how societies function, a shortcut to fixing the problem in many people's eyes is equality of outcome, where they say, but there must be at least, let's say, equal men and equal women in the working place. This can only be achieved through social manipulation, because different careers are chosen freely by men and different careers are chosen freely by women. And they also excel at different careers. Only with social manipulation can this process be reversed to give us equality of outcome. A better answer to this is equality of opportunity. And when we are engaging in societal matters and engaging in societal matters as a Christian community, we need to work and strive against creating equality of opportunity where people can take up their personal responsibility and make the most of the opportunities offered to them. Creating an outward mindset is extremely important. In a social experiment, Simon Sinek asked if he can rewrite the beggar's note asking him for money. And what he wrote on the note was, when next you give something, think about me. The result of this change in the wording from the beggar's poster was that he received more money in one day than he used to receive in more than 2 weeks, asking for what he needed. The reason for this is because in his request, he showed the outward mindset where he told the passers-by, but I am not demanding something from you, I am thinking about what is possible for you, and that motivates them to give more than they usually would. Creating this outward mindset is the way that Proverbs asks believers to go through life. We need to go through and see other people in their situations, constantly answering the question, what am I called to do about that? That does not mean that in the way you go through this life that you have to take up other people's responsibility. That is where you need to say no, because another person's life is still primary another person's responsibility. What you do need, however, is you need to be aware of how Christ is calling you not to look away, not to take the easy way out, but to engage with what is wrong in the world and engage with the inequality and engage with the difficult economic circumstances of those around you in such a manner that the gospel will be sounded in the care that you give each other. The best way to create this outward mindset is to start seeing people in terms of what's their possibilities, in terms of their hindrances, in terms of their dreams, in terms of their preferred future, in terms of their opportunities available to them. And then, when you come near them, you help them take up the responsibility for their own lives and walk with them. That is the way Jesus treated people. And always remember that you and I are sent by God to engage with the world outside of us. We cannot just pull back and say, listen, that has got nothing to do with us, because we share the same world and we are all on this journey for the kingdom of God to come near. Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered.